Good morning. I would just like to thank all of you who are joining us either today or well after the fact. I am going to start my first couple videos with just a couple stories. Then in a week or so I will start incorporating crafts. It is my intention to pre-prepare some craft packets and have them ready and available for you guys to pick up in advance, and so that you guys can craft along. And today my selection of books is a couple of books by Jan Brett. I have the Gingerbread Baby and the Turnip and three snow bears, sorry. And we will start there. And I will begin with the three snow bears. This is kind of like a play on Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Come back, Alukai shouted as her huskies floated out to sea. Oh no! She knew that although the ice floe is a good place to fish, it is a bad place to lose a dog team. Not far away, a snow bear family had just started to eat their breakfast, but it was way too hot for Baby Bear. "Ow-wee," yowled Baby Bear. "My breakfast burned my mouth." "We'll go for a stroll and let the soup cool," said Mama Bear. Alukai was running along looking for her dogs when she came upon the biggest igloo she had ever seen. Who lives here, she wondered. Alukai ducked inside. Right away, she smelled something delicious. Across the room, she saw a big bowl, a medium-sized bowl, and a small bowl. Surely, the good smell was coming from these three bowls. Alukai took a sip from the biggest bowl. "Ow!" she cried out. "Too hot!" She took a sip from the medium-sized bowl. "Ow! Ew! Too cold!" She tipped back the smallest bowl and drank every drop. She said, "Not too hot and not too cold." Or, as we know Goldilocks to say, just right. In the next room, Alukai spotted 3 pairs of beautiful boots standing in a row. She put on the biggest boot. "Too big," she said. She put on the medium-sized boot. "Too fancy," she said. Then she put on the littlest pair. "Just right," she said, wiggling her toes in the soft fur. The big boots, the fancy boots, and the baby bear boots. Alukai walked into the last room and found a long sleeping bench piled high with fur covers. Heat from an oil lamp warmed her cheeks and made her sleepy. "Time for a nap," she thought. She crawled under the highest mound of covers. "Too lumpy," she grumbled. She tried the middle bed with the furry fringe cover, but sank down so far that she could barely breathe. "Too soft," she said. She rolled over into the smallest sleeping place. The furry blanket was cozy and warm, and the pillow was just her size. "Just right," Alukai murmured, and was asleep before she could take her boots off. Big lumpy bed, furry fringe bed, perfect baby bear bed. If Alukai hadn't fallen asleep, she might have heard her dogs barking happily. Papa Bear, Mama Bear, and Baby Bear had spotted them adrift in the strong curtain and gone out to save them. The Snow Bear family was pushing Alukai's dog team back toward their igloo in safety. Papa Bear crawled into the igloo and saw his big bowl sitting in a pool of spilled soup. "Someone has been tasting my soup," he roared. Mama Bear rushed in and saw that her soup had been sloshed around too. "Someone has been sipping my soup," she growled. "Someone found my soup," sputtered Baby Bear in her high, squeaky voice, "and they ate it all up." Papa Bear ran into the next room and saw his boots in the middle of the floor. "Someone has been trying on my boots," he boomed in his big bear voice. Mama Bear put on her fancy boots. "Someone has had these boots on," she huffed, "and the fur is all bunched up." Baby Bear saw that her boots had disappeared. "Someone has taken my boots and left behind these not as good ones," she wailed. The bears ran into their bedroom. "Someone has been sleeping in my bed," Papa Bear bellowed. "Someone has been sleeping in my bed, too," Mama Bear cried. Baby Bear peeked in her little bed and squeaked, "Someone has been sleeping in my bed, and here she is." Alukai opened her eyes and saw 3 big bear noses only inches away. Think you'd freak out just a little bit, huh? She hopped out of the bed and dove between Papa Bear's huge, furry legs. Quicker than a seal, Alukai ran from room to room until she burst outside. Her huskies bounced around, barking and smiling their doggy grins. Alukai and her dogs flew over the frozen ice, dodging ridges and cracks. She looked back to wave thank you to the snow bears. She couldn't see them, but she heard a big gruff voice, a middle-sized voice, and a high squeaky voice calling to her. Goodbye. Okay. Now we're going to read Gingerbread Baby. It was cold outside, and it was warm inside. A fine day for gingerbread, Maddie thought. Maddie's mother put the big blue bowl on the table and lit the stove. Maddie took down a worn-looking cookbook with old-fashioned writing on the cover. He opened it up to the page that said, Gingerbread Boy. They measured and mixed. Maddie rolled the dough into the shape of a gingerbread boy, and they popped him in the oven. Bake for a full 8 minutes. No more, no less. Do not peek, the recipe read. Maddie listened to the clock. Tick, tock, tick. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3, 4, 5. Maddie couldn't wait any longer. He opened the oven door just to take a peek. Instead of a gingerbread boy, out jumped a gingerbread baby. He pranced around the big blue bowl. "I am the gingerbread boy, fresh from the pan. If you want me, catch me if you can." Maddie's mother reached for the gingerbread baby to put him back into the oven, but he ran all around the kitchen. The door opened, and in came Maddie's father. "What's that delicious smell?" he asked as the gingerbread baby tumbled through his legs and outside into the yard. He ran by the tabby cat. She twitched her tail and sprang at him. They rumbled and tumbled, but the gingerbread baby came out on top of the cat. He ran toward the garden wall. The dog caught a whiff of the tasty ginger and sniffed along behind him. but the gingerbread baby was halfway up the wall when the dog caught up. He barked and he barked as the gingerbread baby climbed up over the wall. Matty was still inside. He heard his mother and his father yelling. He heard the cat meowing and the dog barking. And he heard the gingerbread baby shouting, "Catch me if you can." Matty opened up the worn-looking cookbook for the second time. Meanwhile, the gingerbread baby wheeled down on the path into the barn. The goats looked up as he somersaulted across their backs. The second one tried to catch him, but the gingerbread baby was too fast. There's Matty looking through the cookbook again. And there's the gingerbread baby jumping over the goats' backs. Martha and Madeline were standing by the well when the gingerbread baby stopped to take a drink. They looked at each other and winked. Martha started to talk to him while Matty tiptoed up behind him with the bucket, but they could not fool the gingerbread baby. They were going to try to trap him. He's too smart. He took a braid from Martha and a braid from Madeline, and he tied them in a knot, and then he ran down the road. Back at the house, Matty stirred, rolled, and mixed and rolled the dough. He shaped it, and he put it in a pan and back into the oven. Tick, tock, tick, 8 more minutes. This time, he didn't peek. "I will catch him if I can," Matty said to himself. As he was bouncing along, the gingerbread baby saw a farm wagon just ahead. He jumped in and settled down for the ride next to a mama pig. The smell of gingerbread was too much for her. She tossed him high into the air, closed her eyes, and opened her mouth. The gingerbread baby twisted in the air and came down hard on her porky snout. "I am the gingerbread baby, too quick for the mother and the father, too quick for the cat, or too fast for the cat, the dog, and the goats, too clever for Martha and Madeline, too smart for the mama pig. Who's left? Catch me if you can." Feeling smug, the gingerbread baby strolled along by himself until he came to a bridge that crossed the river to the village. Just as he got into the middle, he heard running feet behind him, and he saw a crowd of villagers ahead of him. The gingerbread baby was trapped. He jumped onto the railing, backflipped through the air, and landed on a chunk of ice floating down the river. There he is, jumping off the bridge. Ice bobbed along with the gingerbread baby, dancing on top and singing in a loud voice. "Look at me, and what do you see? The best gingerbread baby ever," until his feet got cold and he jumped ashore. Who was that watching from the trees? He crept up behind it was a fox. He crept up behind the gingerbread baby, ready to eat him up. But the fox couldn't help himself. He licked his chops, smack, smack. And the gingerbread baby heard him and ran as fast as he could. Just when the fox was catching up, the gingerbread baby saw the milk and cheese man with his can of milk. Perfect hiding place, he thought. He lifted the lid and lowered himself inside. He was so pleased that he sang at the top of his gingerbread voice. "Ha ha, hee hee, you'll never find me. I'm the gingerbread baby. Catch me if you can." The milk and cheese man heard the gingerbread baby's voice. "Who's meddling with my milk?" he shouted and lifted the lid, but the gingerbread baby was ready. He jumped up and tweaked his nose. Now the milk and cheese man, the fox, the villagers, the mama pig, Martha and Madeline, the bleating goats, the barking dog, the meowing cat, the father, and the mother were all chasing after the gingerbread baby and getting closer, and he knew it. The brash baby was not as peppy and as proud as he had been. He sniffed a familiar smell and followed his nose into the woods. He couldn't believe what he saw. There, in the middle of a clearing, was a gingerbread house, frosted with sugar, covered with candy, and the doors with peppermint handles were wide open. The gingerbread baby clapped his hands with glee and ran inside. In a tick-tock tick, everyone arrived into the clearing, but all they found were a few bits of frosting, a peppermint candy, and some crumbs. The father exclaimed, "The gingerbread baby has finally met his match." "I wonder who it was," the mother said. "Let's go home and tell Maddie." That's all that's left right there. "Hello, Maddie," his father said when they got home. "We never did catch that gingerbread baby. All we found were some crumbs in the snow." "I see you have been busy," his mother said, looking at the gingerbread house Maddie was holding. "Too bad we never caught the gingerbread baby." "Too bad," said Maddie. Only Maddie could hear the tiny voice from inside the gingerbread house. I'm the little gingerbread baby, lucky as can be to be living in the house that Maddie made for me." The end. And we have one more called The Turnip. Badger Girl was weeding in the vegetable patch when she saw something strange growing in the garden. It was the biggest turnip she had ever seen. "Turnip soup, turnip pie," Badger Girl said. "How delicious." One autumn morning, the air turned chilly. It was time to pick vegetables and pull the giant turnip. But when Badger Girl got to the giant turnip, she could not pull it up. "Let me help," Badger Boy offered. "Hang on to me and my strong arms will pull it right out." They tugged and tugged, but the turnip stayed right in place. "Children," Mother Badger called, "I can wrench that turnip out with a twist and a snap. Watch and learn." But the turnip remained firmly rooted. Father Badger ambled over. "You see how easy it is when I take over," he chortled. But nothing happened. So the snowflake fell from the sky, then another and another. Once the earth is frozen, they would never get that turnip out until spring. Hedgie was fond of roasted turnip. "I know what to do," he said. "I'll stick my prickles into the turnip, and we'll all hold hands and give it the heave-ho." But the turnip did not heave or ho. Mr. Ram, on his way back to town, smiled smugly. You country bumpkins don't have the right equipment. I'll hook it with my horns." Pull, pull, pull! But that turnip didn't budge. Vanya, the horse, stopped by. "I am mighty strong," he whinnied. "Hitch my harness to that tasty turnip, and we'll be eating it mashed and salted before it gets dark." The harness jingled and it jangled, but it was all settled, and the giant turnip was still on the ground. A cocky little rooster had been watching all day long. He had just had a close call with a cooking pot and was looking for a new place to live. Rooster strutted over. "Make room," he crowded, and he took the turnip top in his beak and pulled. Down in their winter den, the bears found the giant turnip in their bed. "Up, up, and away," they shouted. Looks like they're going to push it out with their feet. The turnip flew up out of the ground with the rooster riding high. "Time for turnip pancakes, browned in butter for all," Mother Badger sang out, waving her frying pan. Badger Girl put out their best yellow chair for Rooster. Soon the sizzling, crispy turnip pancakes were ready. "Rooster, you are invited to stay with us as long as you wish," Father Badger announced. "After all, when would we ever meet such a useful fellow again?" I think it was the bears that did it. The end. Well, I'm hoping that these videos will become a weekly part of our programming, and I hope that you join us weekly for more stories and more crafts. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful day.